This meeting is being recorded.
Aloha, welcome to iTeach808, Empowering Hawaii's Teachers and Technology Conference, sponsored by the Augustine Educational Foundation and Sacred Hearts Academy, Honolulu. My name is Debbie, and I'll be facilitating this session. We're honored to have Darrah Brown join us today and share her expertise through a 45-minute presentation named Invest in Your Future, Problem-Based Learning Using Google Classroom. So let's give a warm aloha to Darrah.
Aloha. I will try my best to share my screen and do everything I can, but when I tried to share my screen earlier, I couldn't talk. So that's good morning and thank you for being here. I am.
Unmute. Oh. Okay.
I'm so sorry because every time I share it, it mutes me because I'm a co-host. I'm not a host. So
no worries. I'll fix that right now.
You go, magician.
All right. There you go.
Okay, let me try that again. Okay. One moment, please, as I always tell my students. Okay. Sorry. Share screen. Okay.
You still need to unmute. We still can't hear you. We still can't hear you.
No?
There you go.
Can you see the screen though?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. So I need to learn how to do this. Okay. Sorry. Okay. I'm sorry about all the technical difficulties. I'm Darrah Brown. I'm a middle school science teacher at New Valley Middle. And I have graduated from Sacred Hearts Academy in 1988. And then I received my post-baccalaureate certificate in secondary education from University of Hawaii at Manoa after receiving my bachelor's of biology from Washington State University. I've been a middle school science teacher since 2001, and our mascot at New Valley is also a Lancer. So I am a forever Lancer. A few disclaimers and maybe a little bit of background, if you will, before we begin about this project. I need to explain my school situation because everyone might have a different situation. This may not be applicable to you. My school is a one-to-one school. Every student has access to a computer. In the morning, they pick it up and they take it with them throughout the day. So they always have computer, and every room in our school has Wi-Fi. This assignment is constantly changing and adapting to the needs of my learners. I really try to ask my students what works best for them. They're teenagers, and when I communicate with them, the message doesn't always get to them. So I ask them, I say, how could I word this question so that you understand it better? Because as I look at their answers, it's not really what I want. So I use feedback from them to revise this project all the time, depending on the needs of that year. My current situation is 100% in-person learning. If you are virtual or in hybrid instruction, I'll try my best to field any questions you may have. I'm going to primarily rely on Google Slides in rolling out this project to you. I'm sharing this with the expectation that you already have some familiarity using Google Classroom. I know some of you know how to do this already. Well, actually, can you type in the chat if you have no experience with Google Classroom? I just want to know. And if you do, you have a little bit, 1 year to 2 years, can you type in yes? Okay, all of you have, okay, yay, okay, right on. Okay, so this is gonna be perfect then. All right, I'm just gonna zip through this and I'm gonna skip all this. I would like you to join my classroom, okay? And here is the code for this. If you join this classroom, I've loaded all of the documents I'll be sharing with you today. So APYZHRP, I'll also put it in the chat. Go ahead and join it, APYZHRP. Okay, all right. And once you're in, you'll be able to, let me see how many students I have in here. Are you guys able to join it? I made my husband practice with me. Okay, I'm gonna continue on. So the overview, let me give you an overview of this project. First of all, I'm gonna incorporate engineering design process for this using 7th grade science. So if you're not a scientist, I apologize. If you are a scientist and looking for more information and deeper depth of knowledge, stay with me. All right, so this is kind of like the progression I want to share with you. Students actually walked to the garden to establish a list of problems that they saw, because engineering is all about problem solving. That I create mini lessons based on what they ask for and what they develop as problems in case they don't know the content. I look at the projects, and at our school, we exercise student voice, student choice a lot, especially when I do my projects. And so I look at the general listing of what they've come up with as problems, and I kind of narrow it down to maybe 4 or 5 subject areas. As a teacher, you can be as wide or as narrow of your scope of vision as far as problem solving goes. But the more away you get from, it's difficult to try and customize your support for each student project. So I try and do it based on, and they generally have a grouping for their ideas. I have a huge notebook, which has 4 parts. But what I have to do is, because I also teach, and I don't know if you teach in the public school, but we have special education students as well as 504 students and maybe English language learners that need a little support. So what I do is I try to chunk all of my work for them. So I take this huge project, break it down into 4 parts and roll it out part by part so that they can finish it. The first part is, what problem do you want to solve? They have to establish the rationale for their problem solving. And then we do peer editing. Part 2 is they develop ideas, they brainstorm. Part 3 is where they actually create the solution. They build in class. Some of them build at home and bring it to school. And part 4 is reflecting on their project. They look at their data and so on and so forth. All right, so I'm not able to join. Wrong account code looks good, but your account accesses it. Darn it. I'm so sorry you can't join. Darn it. Okay, I tell you what I'm gonna do. I will share with you all the documents, but as long as you can see this, and if you want the documents, Debbie, is it possible to get everyone's email?
Yes.
Yeah, is that, I mean, if you all are okay with me sharing this with you, I'll happily email all of you, okay? Yeah, so it's up to you though. It's totally up to you. If you don't need a copy of all of these, that's fine. Okay, so
You can
I'm
put
just
in the chat and I'll copy it down for you, if anything.
Yeah, if you want the, I mean, and if you don't want it, I'm not insulted at all. What I've learned is, number one, the students asked for peer editing. They thought it was very powerful for them to see other student work. So I'm gonna go over that with you as well. I've color coded all of my slides to organize it in sections, and if I assign things in a jigsaw manner. So here's an example of color coding. What we did was, after the students came up with their list of problems, a lot of them wanted to do composting because they said the dirt was really dry, didn't look like it had many nutrients. We even actually tested it for nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and pH. And they found that maybe the soil needs conditioning. So what we did was I gave them an article on composting. I linked the article here. They had to read it. And as they read it, what they were supposed to do is give a little summary over the section they read. I have to be very explicit with middle schoolers. You tell them to answer the questions after the chapter, but unless you tell them to read the chapter, they won't do it. I also have to give them finite tasks. So when I break that up into 4 parts, I tell them it is due today, or they'll just wait. In the past, if you give them 4 weeks to do it, they'll wait till the day before it's due to do it. Next, I also gave them this visual. Here are the 4 parts. I made this flow chart because they need it. So peer editing, I tried to peer edit every single section, told them when the final was due. I also sent this to their parents. Parent communication is huge. If you do not communicate with parents, you do not have the support that you need, especially at any middle school level. Students can be very, how shall we say, half-truthy, if you know what I mean. Right. I also do what's called an intermittent check-in. I check in literally one-to-one with each small group or with individuals to see how they're doing. And I look at their documents. You guys all know how it is to look at a document and say, hey, where are you at? I tell them, I said, get ready, everybody. I'm coming to invade your documents. And there I am. They see my little icon and boy, does that get them working. It's amazing.
Excuse me, Darrah. I think right now, all I see is just still the pink page. Is that what everyone else sees, or does everyone else see the other slides?
Uh-oh, am I not advancing?
I just see the pink page, so we don't see your slide right now. Yeah.
Okay. Let me advance it one more time then.
Okay, so you can unshare and then try and share your screen one more time.
I'll try again.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, one moment, please. Okay, I'll try it one more time.
Yes.
Is that better? Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Sorry about that. Okay, so mini lessons. So if I have a lot of students that are interested in vermicast, I might talk about vermicasting. If I have a lot of students that are interested in composting, we talked about that. I also had some students that were interested in creating compost bins and even eco-friendly weed killer. So we did mini lessons. Peer editing. I don't think I need to go into all the beautiful parts about peer editing, but for those of you that may need it, you allow students to see others' work. It enables students to critically analyze another's work and even their own, but it also helps students on different academic levels collaborate and learn from each other, good and bad. Sometimes you have a lower level student that asks great questions but doesn't really know how to do it. But then you have the higher level student that can do it but is really unable to explain it, and showing them is the most powerful part of it all. So when I do peer editing, I take the document, I kind of tear apart the rubric and put specific questions. So did the student provide 3 reasons why this is a problem for the garden and humans? What words or concepts did the student include that were scientific? Did the student include a bibliography? We're heavy on the bibliography and research and giving credit to appropriate credit to the authors. And also research slides clearly explained, and I'll show you that shortly. Okay, I'll show you an example. So here is actually what some students came up with. One student said the garden is unorganized. People don't know what kind of plants there are. People don't know what they look like or how they grow. So one student made signs, a group of students did that. I had some students that wanted to try weed suppression, but trying to be eco-friendly because again, NVEST stands for New Valley Environmental Science Team. In the 7th grade, we try and talk about sustainability, and we try to do it on the school level. The 8th graders at New Valley Middle School try to do sustainability in the community. So we're trying to encourage sustainability on campus. Composting, obviously the student knew that this bin needed aeration, so they built this crank. Okay, I just want to say thank you before I forget to the Sacred Hearts Academy, my alma mater, for sponsoring this workshop, and to the Augustine Educational Foundation for sponsoring this. Okay, so I'm going to share one more tab with you right now, and it will be my notebook. Okay, so this is the actual project that we've done. Gosh, and I know you're probably tired of hearing me talk, but almost there, everybody, hang in there. Okay, I'm going to share with you the actual notebook and the assignment. Okay, ready. Can you hear me now? Okay. So I'm sorry, this is the design process is something that is sponsored, is a philosophy or a way of teaching students to answer their own open-ended questions. So, and this is just the engineering, technology, and science NGSS standards there. I also linked rubrics for the students to look at prior to, and this is a whole lot of rubric for you to look at, but I try my best to be clear with students before we get into our assignment. So this is what it looks like. Sorry, that's a lot of rubric. Okay, so the big question they have to ask is, what problem in the garden do you want to solve? Why is it important to solve, and where can you find information about it? So I ask them, what is the problem you want to solve? I break it up, and I try to be as specific and explicit as I can. At first, when I did this, I said, why do we need to solve it? And they said, because it's good for the earth. But if I noticed that if I was very explicit with them, give me 3 reasons why it's a real problem. They put that in there. In order to be successful, the solution must have. So we talked about what it needs to contain, what it needs to do, and even the metric units for it. We try and stress how metric units are used everywhere in the world besides US and a few other countries. We also try to make sure that this is basically their success criteria for engineering. Research, okay? And then we talk about ideas. We tell them that engineering has a lot to do with what is done and how you can improve on it. Okay, and so they have to talk about where they found that. Okay, and I also give them a checkpoint because I found that if they're able to do this, they can go back and check their work. It's so important for the students to be empowered and learn how to check their own work as opposed to, is this good enough? And sometimes I get tired of, is it good enough? I said, you tell me, because I tell them that's the true learning. We can really look at your own work and determine that, hey, I'm missing something. And that's part of why we do peer editing also. So developing ideas, they're going to brainstorm a list of ideas. They're going to hand draw it, take a photo and load it here. And I noticed, do you notice this little to-do sign? When I was doing these assignments, if I don't put a to-do sign, they think there's nothing to do. There's just something to read. They're like, oh, I didn't know what to do. So if I tell them to do, it means they have an active part in contributing something to the slide. Okay, so in the end, after they look at the 3 designs, they're going to end up doing this, talking about the science behind it, as well as what they would be measuring to see if that project were successful. In part 3, they actually create the solution. So they have to give me a list of materials, be very specific. I try to give them the actual example of what to do and how they're going to build it. And this next slide is, how will they test their solution? Okay.
Sorry, Darrah. You know what? We're still on the first slide with the.
Okay. No.
Garden. Yeah.
It's okay. Don't be sorry. I'm glad you're speaking up. That's what I tell my students all the time. Can't hear me now. Is that better? Okay. I'm learning how this Zoom thing goes. All right. So what we do is we have them give me, oh, I'm sorry. Did you guys see part 3? I'm just going to zip through this and I'm so sorry. It's going to be so fast. I think you'll have more time to peruse this. Okay. So they're going to give me their materials, their procedures. So Debbie, stop me anytime and I'm happy to stop and reshare. Okay. And then they're going to talk to me about how they actually test the solution. Some students don't know how to write procedures. In addition to, and you could do this too, you could actually teach them how to write procedures. And we tell them the command form, kind of like a recipe. I've heard some teachers actually make sandwiches in their class for teaching them that. Safety considerations, okay? And then solution details. Oh my gosh, my head is spinning. This is a big project for the kids. So imagine giving all of this to a student and having them figure out when to do all of this. They had to insert photos of their assignment. They also had to evaluate their solution. So they had to collect numerical data. It couldn't be, does it work, does it not? Okay, they also had to make a graph and I give them a checklist. Again, it's all about empowering the students to be their own learner. I want them to be able to self-check instead of always sharing it with their teacher. Is this good enough? If you're an elementary teacher, I get that, how you do that. But the more you can empower your students to find out what they're doing wrong, it's like editing their own language arts assignments. Okay, which modified design performed the best? Modifications, implications, and then I've also created a sample for them. So if you, I want to show you the sample very quickly.
Okay.
So I'm gonna stop sharing this. Yeah.
So what's happening is, because I'm on your Google Classroom, so I see all that you're talking about, but it's not showing up when you share your slide. It's not going along with you. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry, but
No
we
problem.
will. I'll get everyone's emails on the chat if you want, or I can send it to you, and then you'll invite them to your Google Classroom later.
Oh,
or your
absolutely. I
slides.
can absolutely invite you all. Oh, I can't see. We're still on design. Oh man, always sees the verbs page. You only see the first one I share, huh? Okay, I tell you what, I'll try my best to give you a Reader's Digest view of what I'm talking about. All right, so I have many things to show you, and you're gonna go crazy if I show them all to you. So I have peer editing. I also have a sample of what I show them as far as what to aim for, because I have found, and I don't know if any of you have found, that showing students samples is really powerful in just letting them know what to do. They're so visual now. They're so used to technology where they see everything. So I need to ask everyone. I have several things that I can show you. I'm going to type it in the chat. So a few things that I have are peer editing. I also have the mini lessons that I've shared with them. And I even have the sample. Of those three, which would you all like to see? If you can type it in the chat, I will do that, because, oh, I wonder if I can just share the link to the document. What if I just did that for all of you? Maybe that would be easier, yeah? Okay. So if y'all tell me what you want to see, and if nobody wants, oh, you want to see a sample? Okay, gotcha. I'm going to share the link. Is that okay, everyone? And you can look at it at your leisure, because clearly, anyone on the internet, okay, I got this. Crossing your fingers, everybody. Okay, so this is the sample. And I'm going to call this the super shovel sample. In the past, I've done a sample on composting and everything. And let's just say that they copy what I write. So I tried to have a student learn how to make a new tool. But this is my sample, so it's really not student work. And I have the spinning ball of death. So as soon as my computer copies and pastes this right, there you go. I'll share it with you. There you go. See if you can click on that and open it. And you can look at this. And I'll talk about any parts you want. And I'll share the first page with you all. Okay. Oh, yay, you can see, I see everybody in there. Okay. All right. So if any of you have any questions, yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for checking it out. I mean, I don't know if you have any questions on how to do this. I know it's really long, but I am going to tell you, I'm happy to share these slides with you. You can copy and do whatever you need to do and change it up to make it work for you. I teach with another I co-teach when I have my inclusion class, when I have special education students. And we have found that putting things in the speaker notes helps those students that may need it. We even link things to help other students that may need supports, like how to write a bibliography or how to write instructions. So those are some things that we do too, okay? Yeah, and I just wanna make a disclaimer that the picture I have for the sample on slides 12, 13, and 14 was not drawn by me. It was drawn by my colleague. He kicks it, man. I am just so impressed with him. So I will share that one with you because I'm pretty proud of that one. He did a great job on it. Gotcha. I'm learning how to do that on mute. So this one is, I hope you guys can see this detail. He drew this, and the students have drawn it too. I mean, I could share with you student projects too, but what happened was he talked about a weed puller. We actually had students that made shovels and made different tools for the garden. It was amazing. Yeah, so those were some things that the kids did too. And in the garden is just a small plot of land that's maybe 60 square feet. And what we have kids that are suppressing weeds in one area. We have kids, and I showed you those pictures, right? Kids that are making signs for it. Students that are I even had students that did plant propagation for Native Hawaiian plants. Because in the 7th grade in middle school and for the state, they study Hawaiian studies. So they're trying to talk about the canoe plants and the plants that were here when the islanders got here. So it's kind of neat. So if you want to do that for yours, it is chaos. I'm not going to lie to you though. It's chaotic because you have students saying, Mrs. Brown, my compost smells. What do I do? Mrs. Brown, my weeds, what do I do? How do I mark that off? For the weed suppression, I just literally use chopsticks and yarn, and we marked off the area, and we made a little sign that said the period number and then group number. Because I find that if you put names on it, some kids are targeted. So I just wanted to avoid all that. So that's what we do for that. Okay. At this time, I'm going to ask, we have about 10 minutes because I'm going to let Debbie share an announcement at the end. Do any of you have questions? Any questions about this project at all? You'll also notice I did peer editing slides, and the peer editing slide has a timer that you can use for students to share information with each other, and to share their document with you. I know there's so much to look at. No questions? If you don't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and show you the peer editing and share with you my peer editing.
So you may have to stop sharing and then so we can see that one. Okay.
Oh, actually, I'm just going to post the link because I feel like that might work better.
Okay. Because right now we're still looking at the fulcrum, at the drawing.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, correct. Yeah, I'll take that one off. And I'll do a peer editing template. I feel like you guys want to see student samples. Is that it? Is that the vibe I'm getting? Yeah, see, I know. I knew it. All right, I'll see what I can find. One moment, please. What type of peer editing? Oh, you know what? I think, let's see. Let me see what I have. Okay, crossing my fingers. I'm gonna try to share this with you all, okay? One moment, please. I kind of like this peer editing thing. I have to be honest with you. This peer editing is not my original idea. I had a colleague that did something like this. So I made it my own. And after I made it my own, I put my students' names in it, and voila, there you have it. Okay. So this is my peer editing template. Every single portion I did, I peer edited. So there's the template for that, if you want to look at it. I'll try to share the good parts of it all. Okay, so I start out with assigning groups, and I try to make it so that there are different levels. So obviously a higher and then lower level. Right, I just wanted to get down there before okay, so this is, can you see this screen with the timer on it? Are you guys seeing this? Okay, so this timer is used for 7 minutes. Yeah, I mean, you click on this and it'll count down for you. The 8 minutes for the person who is writing feedback. And the feedback look like those checkpoint questions. And it's, okay. So I just advanced my slide. Debbie, can you see my slide that I advanced to? Son of a mother, watch what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do some magic and stop sharing and then reshare it. Okay, gotcha, getting good at this. And I know you can hear me because I pressed pause. All right, so this one is where the student, I had to literally type in every single student's name though. I found that when I gave them a blank one with just a presenter one and peer editor, they didn't know what to do with it. So I had to tell them, okay, Jaden, you're gonna do this. Charlie, you're gonna do this. So we talked about the 3 reasons. Basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to elicit the main parts of your project that you want the kids to write about. So your students should write about 3 reasons why whatever problem they're addressing is a problem for the garden and humans. Science, you want to have them have some content to it. I told them this is different from elementary school where you gardened because you're going to actually give me the science. You're going to explain to me what is happening here with your compost bin. I know these students did a compost bin. Bibliography, and it has to be an APA format for my school, where the research slides clearly explained how the solution worked. And notice how this person wrote somewhat. So what I've found is students are brutally honest, some of them, and other students are very, how shall we say it, just, oh yeah, it was good. So you kind of have to temper that in there. So what I do allow them is time to revise that work also based on the comments that were made. Yeah, based on the comments that were made. So, the mini lessons, I find the jigsaw, I love. And I want to show you that one because it has been very, very, very wonderful for the students to do the jigsaw. I have found that they really, really excel with that. They're engaged. I don't have a problem in telling them, oh, you know, get to work, do something. I have some students that will literally sit there the whole time unless I sit with them and do their work. Okay, so composting, I found an article from the University of Illinois. This is only one article, and I encourage them to look at others. But this one I felt like had a lot of information for them to see. Okay, and so I'm gonna copy that link for you, but I'm also gonna share whatever I can with you. So this is composting. Do any of you use Pear Deck in your schools? Because I have a Pear Deck presentation too that I could share with you for a mini lesson. So this is my composting mini lesson that you can look at also. Okay, and then I'll share that with you. I'll share my screen with you soon. So I had the link to an article. Students read it and they summarized it. I linked the document in here. So this is the document that they had to read. And what I did was I broke the document into parts. So I said, group 1, you read this. Group 2, you read this. Group 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it was quite, how shall I say it? Quite explicit in the directions. And like I said, if I'm not explicit in my directions, then they do not do the work. So I don't know if any of you struggle with that, but I constantly struggle with that at times. Gotta get them moving, man, these kids. Okay, so I'm gonna try and share that with you. So this is something, it takes time though, to backload all these assignments. It really takes time. But in a way, it's kind of nice because once you get it there, if you have a student that's absent and they wanna know what happened, here's my document on composting. So I put teacher notes in there because I felt like there were some areas where they really just didn't understand. We talked about decomposition and nitrogen, how that was important and how they needed greens and browns for their compost bins. And we literally used trash cans to make a compost bin. I bought a drill and a drill bit and I made holes in a 5-gallon bucket. I had some students that were able to successfully compost. Composting does take time, however. So in the meantime, while we were waiting for the compost to build and to decompose, we did other projects. We did other content area assignments. So this is part 1. So students in group 1 had to read part 1. Part 2, students in group 2 had to do part 2. And you can do this with any assignment you have for them. You can do this with any reading you find on the internet. So in addition to that, I actually made the bibliography, if you saw in the first slide of that. So this is something else you can do for them. Force them to read, force them to do this, yeah? So they talked about how long it takes, how you layer it. All of these things were very good in keeping the students on task and understanding what the assignment was about. Again, I try to be an example for them. I believe, especially in the middle school, teachers need to be examples for their students. If they're not role models, if they're not practicing what they preach, then the kids have a tendency to stray off course. And I can attribute that to Sacred Hearts Academy because my teachers there were very, very exemplary. They weren't on their cell phones. We didn't have cell phones. As always, I'm going to ask any questions out there Pear Deck, I'll share that with you also then, Gabrielle, if you want. Pear Deck is a way of keeping students engaged. So what happens is on the screen, you can prompt a question to them. And then what happens is they answer it on their screen in real time. It's amazing. I don't know if they have a free trial anymore, but during the pandemic, they were offering free trials everywhere, a real basic subscription. Pear Deck can, if your school is willing to pay for it, you can even check on them in real time. It tells you who is answering the questions, other mini lessons you do while it's going over it. Okay, gotcha. Absolutely, we'll share another mini lesson with you. I can definitely do that. Okay. Composting. I'll share with you my soil science. My colleague, I was really lucky. He was an agriculture. He's actually a horticulture major. So he was able to put this together in Pear Deck form. So I will warn you that unless you use Pear Deck, it's going to be confusing to you. So we taught the kids about soil because we actually tested it for the nitrogen content. We tested it for the phosphorus and even the potassium and the pH. Okay, so here's my Pear Deck mini lesson for soils. Okay, so for any of you that would like to see that, you can. Okay. All right, I am hitting my 5-minute mark where I have to hand it over to Debbie. If you have any, any last questions? Okay, I am open to questions and suggestions. So I'm going to give you my email. It's also on the presentation I shared. So if any of you have questions or want documents, knock yourselves out. I'm more than happy to share what I have.
Right now, we just see the composting page. Okay, there.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's your email. So please, if you want to see, if you can't get to the links, can you please email Darrah at her browndarrah@gmail.com, and she can send you the slides again if you don't have them, right? Okay, but any more questions, go ahead. And then after, because Darrah, you're hosting this, after this presentation, anyone who's welcome to ask questions, they can stay on a little longer until the next session at 10 o'clock a.m. Okay, so, all right. I'm gonna go on. Let's stop the recording. It's on your end. Oh, sure. I'll reclaim the host then for now. Okay.